So if you saw that video where I took down the big tree, you'll know the chainsaw got quite a workout. And now it's time that needs a little bit of love and it's got to get tuned up. So it wasn't running all that great. When it like bogs down, it doesn't have good trigger response. And a lot of times, especially when the chainsaw would get warmed up, it would conk out on me if I didn't constantly stay on the throttle. And then after it would die out when it was hot, it was sometimes almost impossible to start. So the chainsaw is completely cold now. So I'm gonna put it on full choke. And it usually starts pretty good when it's cold. Now once it starts running, you won't hear me so well. So I'm gonna let it warm up at a low idle, and then you'll hear gradually what it starts doing. Okay, so once it conks over like that, you click the choke up once. See how it conks out? So now you're going to see the start gets a little bit harder. So I have it in idle right now because it's somewhat warm. See? And then she dies out. See, it was about to die there. And then I gave it some throttle to keep it alive.
So hopefully you can hear me better now. So you see, it's just not running smooth. And you'll see it doesn't have really good trigger response. I'll show you that once it warms up a little bit more. See, it wants to conk out. So when I'm cutting wood and I hear that happening, I gotta get back on the throttle right away to keep it alive. And we're gonna break it down and troubleshoot it. But I'll let it warm up a little bit more here in real time so you can see what's going on.
See, that time I hit the throttle really hard and it dies out. You got to ease into it a little bit to keep it going. That's not right. You're supposed to slam that trigger down and have immediate trigger response, and it's not doing that. See how I have to slowly ease on the trigger to get it going? That's not right. You're supposed to slam it down and it's supposed to go. You can see how it's kind of hit and miss. There, she's going to die again on me. Yep. Okay, so let's get this thing over to the bench and start tearing it down. A lot of crud in there. A lot of crud. Okay, so put that off to the side. Let's take the air filter off. Yep, that certainly needs to be cleaned. Take the summer-winter mode converter off. And let's get the air cleaner out of there. I'm going to put the choke all the way down so any of this sawdust doesn't get inside the cylinder. Yeah, okay. So this needs a good cleaning. So I'm going to get some compressed air and take it back outside blow it all off so when I start taking things apart, it doesn't get a lot of sawdust inside. So to remove the carburetor here, we're going to take these two nuts off right here. It's a 8mm deep that I'm using there. Later. Okay, so let's pay attention to how everything goes on. So first you have this plate on there. It has a little bit of a flange on it that goes out. It says top. So we make sure it goes back on that way, not that way. So we got to get this throttle linkage off here. So just squeeze the trigger a little to make it peek out, and then just pop it off without bending it. And then it attaches down here to the carburetor. Let me grab this. So if you could see in there. So we come out, we rotate it this way. You can see right there, see? And then it slips right out. Next, we got to get this trigger out of here. So there's some wires that tuck in right there. So we just pop them out of the groove there. So there's some, so it has some freedom. And so we got to get this choke clutch out of here. And that just pops into, let me move that wire out of the way. So you see the two orange tabs, it just pops into there. So you just get a little screwdriver and pop that out. And then it's going to come out. Okay. And we can take this whole thing and just move it out of the way. That's the kill switch there. So you see when you turn the switch off and it makes contact with that metal, that's the kill switch right there. From here, we should be able to just pull the carburetor out. Got to get this little rubber out of this groove here. So this is your breather tube. And we're going to check that too, because if the tank isn't breathing properly, that could be why it's cutting off when it gets warm. Okay, so you pull it out a little bit. Now, before I pull it out all the way, here's your fuel line that goes into the carburetor there. I'm going to take a screwdriver and just push that off of the barb there. There's another one under here. Let's see if I get that nut out of there. There's that nut I almost lost before. So in here, all right, again, there's the fuel line. And then on this side of the carburetor is going to be the pulse line. Right under that silver, right there. That's your impulse line. And that goes on a little barb fitting too. So as you pull the carburetor out, everything should come right out of that. So the carburetor's all loose now. Let's pop that out of here. Just pull that off to the side. And the whole carburetor comes right out. Work that fuel line off. And we squirt a lot of gas out. Should have drained the gas first. That was silly. Well, now you know for the next time. Okay, I cleaned that mess up. So getting back at it here. So we have a plate here that slides off these studs. Okay, slide that off. And let's see if there's any markings on here. Yep, that says top also. So we know that only goes one way. Then there is this little stiffener inside the manifold. That keeps the manifold from collapsing. Here, let's get some of these wires out of the way. I think I need to get the wrap handle off in order to get this whole orange piece out of the way so I could shove this manifold back. So let's see what that's going to entail. There's a couple Torx bolts here. Imagine these plugs need to come out too. There we go. Yep, and there's another Torx in there. So I imagine all these plugs probably need to come out. Okay, there's another one. Looks like another plug here. If these bar guides pop off, make sure you don't lose them. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna take them off now because they're prone to pop off anyway. So remember to put those back in later. It's got to come off. It's got the tip's got to come off. There we go. Okay, so that came out. So all these Torx bolts to get the wrap handle off are T27 Torx. Okay. I think I said there was 2 on the bottom. Yep, they're all the same size. So the only thing holding it on is this. Looks like, not sure. Oh, no, there was another one in there. Okay. Now it came off. Let's grab that screw, that bolt before we lose it. Okay. Now it looks like the whole wrap handle could come off. Just snake it on out. There we go. And get that out of the way. Okay. There's the oiler pickup tube. That's the adjustment for the oiler. Okay, now that everything's loose here, actually I think I still need to get this plug out. Right here. In order to really remove this whole orange piece, looks like I need to push that grommet through. Yeah, you see there's a lip in there that needs to get under, and it's not getting under. There we go. There we go. It's working its way through now. And that looks like I got it now. A little bit more on this side. Yeah, that's free. See, that's free. There we go. There we go. Yeah, right. So let's press this manifold in. Don't stab it. Just kind of roll over the edge of it. See, so just take that manifold and scoot it into the behind the plastic there. And we can remove that whole thing. Oh, and then the impulse hose. Maybe if I squeeze both ends with a pair of needle nose, I could just push the whole thing through. Yep. Yep. You just gotta work a little bit on each end. There we go. Okay. I think I cleared that opening. See? Now the impulse hose could just go toward the back. Let's take this wire off here. Just a little spade clip. Should come right up. Okay. Ah, that's great. That gives me plenty of room to work. Oh, let's pull this gas line out. Check the condition of it. Then I think I'm going to take it back on the driveway and clean this up some more. Let's throw this on its side again. Let's fish that gas tank out of there, that hose. Just get some kind of a hook that you could grab on to. Should probably bend like a coat hanger or something. That'd be a better way of grabbing it. There we go. And pull it out. There'll be a, there's your fuel filter. 1/4-inch barb. Looks pretty clean. Let's see how the gas tank looks. Oh, very clean. Good. So let's try to keep it that way. All right, let's come back over here. Now I could take the fuel line out. Let's inspect the condition of this. Oh yeah, couple little nicks there. Doesn't look like it's cracking through. Yeah, maybe we'll replace that. Might as well, we got it apart. Let's leave it in for now until I get a new one. Just so it doesn't filthy up the gas tank, being that it is nice and clean. Oh, this is cool. So there's a little flat slot right here, right there on the gas tank, and the line has a straight part too, right here. And the reason why is because this is molded. So it orients where it picks up the fuel from, because if you put this in that way, then maybe when you're turning the saw, it's not picking it up right. So this always leaves it where it's supposed to be. So you want the straight part of that line to line up right against that little slot. So I'm just gonna stick this back in just to keep things nice and clean. Now, let's see, let's check out the condition of the impulse hose here. Yeah, I'm gonna pull that off, but before I do, I'm gonna blast some of the out of here again. I ended up removing the fuel line again just so we could see a little bit better. So I want to get that impulse hose out right there. Well, it connects to a barb right there. I'm gonna pull that off with a pair of pliers. Okay, that's it. That little barb right there is where it goes to. So as the engine is cranking over, it throws an impulse through there. That goes into the carburetor, and that's what makes your fuel pump work. So if the impulse hose is cracked or damaged at all, then it's not going to be pumping fuel well. So we'll replace that too. The carburetor. Let's get to the carburetor next. See the condition of that. Okay, so here's the carburetor. We'll just try to get this as clean as we can before we take everything apart. Get all that sawdust off of there. Let's spray a little carb cleaner on there. At least get the surface clean. And once we take it apart, I'll blow through all these ports. So let's remember the orientation of how this goes on. Here's the two barbs, one for the fuel line, one for the impulse hose. So that went into the saw that way. So this rubber stop comes out. I think we could just take that off. Okay. The little flange side goes over that groove. Okay, this is the fuel pump side with this little screen here. You can see there's all sawdust on there, and there's some crud in there. So, see, it has these little flappers, and has that impulse hose, pulses the fuel through. That's what makes the fuel pump. And then there's a screen here. Looks pretty clean. Let's give a little shop air. Blow that out gently. So we got the fuel pump side off, and here's the gasket, and here is the fuel pump mechanism with all these flappers. So I'll clean that up, and I'll spray it down with some carb cleaner. So let's take the diaphragm side off next. And there are washers on here, on these screws, so you don't want to lose them. Try to keep them attached to these bolts. Okay. Pop that off, check the condition of the diaphragm. Pretty clean. I think it should feel a little bit more supple than that. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's somewhat pliable. Yeah, we got it off. We might as well buy a rebuild kit, right? Okay, so here's your needle and seat right there. And that seems to be springing pretty well. If I wanted to remove that, I could take that screw out. I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think it's open enough once I spray some carb cleaner in there. That's your main jet. These are some Welch plugs. These are your adjusting screws. High speed, low speed, and idle. But I'm just going to gently rinse everything down. I'm going to shoot through these jets a little bit. I'm just gently squeezing the trigger on this. Okay, that's back flushing through there. Just clean all these holes out. Get them from both directions, and then you'll flush it, back flush it. Let's get some right down in the throttle body here. Let's open that up. Well, that looks nice and clean. Let's squirt a little down in the needle and seat. Just dry it off a little with a shop rag. Keep that over there where it stays clean. Let's get this side. And you know what? Let's remove this gasket so we could clean everything up underneath. I'm gonna find out what kind of a carburetor this is and order a new carb kit. I mean, I got it apart. I might as well shoot some through that hole. Yeah, now let's back flush it through that hole. And that's nice and clean. Gently blow everything off just to help dry it. Don't blast this too hard, that needle and seat. You don't want any springs to go flying. Just gently. There's that screen. You see? That's a good way to get it out. That's a good way to get it out. Blast it with some air. Well, now that it's out, let's get some more carb cleaner through there. Yep, and that shot right up in my eye. But I wear reading glasses, so let's get Put that back down. Get some kind of a blunt tip object. Just give it a couple pokes with this. Okay, so that screen's back in. Let's see what this is. I think it's a wall barrow. But I'm gonna get some markings off of here. I'm looking at it now. It says HD, looks like 1BBL 321314H. There's a lot of numbers on here. So I'm gonna have to do some sleuthing on the internet, find out exactly what this carb is here. This says B17. So I'll look all this up, find out where to order a carb kit from. When I figure that out, I'll leave it down in the description, or I'll put it on the screen so you can see in case you have the same one. Oh, there you go, wall barrow. It is a wall barrow. Okay, so it's a wall barrow carburetor, an HD. So I'm going to order some fuel lines, the impulse line. I'll get a new filter. I'm going to look up the carb kit. I'm going to have to order that. I'm going to put a new oiler hose in. We'll check the condition of that. And we're kind of on hold now until I get those parts. So let me go look on the internet and see what to order, and then we'll be back to finish this up. Okay, so some parts came in here. I have here a, that might be the oiler hose, because I didn't pull that out yet. Let's put that off to the side. Here's the impulse hose. This is an OEM, so this is a Stihl number, 1127-141-8600. I'm sure you could put that number in the internet and probably find an aftermarket if you wanted to on eBay or something. And then here, this is the fuel line, made in Taiwan, probably an aftermarket, 38-13171 by Rotary. And so I looked up the carburetor. It is a wall barrow, as it was marked on there. It's a D10-HD. So I got the repair kit. So you put in D10HD on the internet, and you could find these, and you could probably find some aftermarket ones. So let's get the carburetor back together first. So let's see how some things match up here. So here's my old ones, and this was the gasket on the fuel pump side. So it looks like they give you a couple different gaskets. This one's like rubbery. This is more of that hard paperish type thing, which is the one that was originally on there. So I'm going to go with that. I may have to refer back to my video to see exactly how this went. Nah, it'll be obvious. So I think it'll be obvious. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, you just got to make sure that all the grooves and everything line up. So there's a hole up here, then there's the little rectangle. So that clearly goes like that. Gasket goes there. So that goes on top. And then this would go back on. But you know what? Before I do that, I want to make sure that the gasket was on the carburetor side and not the cover side. I think I'm going to have to refer back to my video. So I believe the gasket was actually on the cover. I think this should be that way. I'm going to refer back to my video, and then I'll come back. Okay, I confirmed. The fuel pump side, the gasket goes on the cover, and the fuel pump flappers itself go on the body of the carburetor. So these are my new parts. So I had it backwards before, so we're going to put that right up against the body. that's gonna go in the same orientation right over there. And then, now, you need to know which way that goes. It's a little longer than it is wide, so it won't fit that way. It will fit that way, and it will also fit that way. But if you remember, one side is going to connect to the fuel line, and the other one will connect to the impulsos, so we know that both of these barbs need to be facing the same way. So we know that goes that way. Gasket on top, because that's going to, actually, we could put this right onto the, to the back here. See, there's two little dimples there. See, there's a dimple there and a dimple there. So that goes, so that catches on there. And you know what we should probably do, now that I'm thinking about it? Let's take the fuel pump flappers off and put them on the nipples too. He said nipples. Okay. See, now we know everything will line up properly. And then I could take that and mesh it right up against there. Now we know nothing got pinched. Okay. So the fuel pump side is on, and that had this single large screw here. It's nice and snug. I'll move over to the diaphragm side. Make sure everything's clean. No gasket material on there. No junk hiding away in there. Okay. And there's a couple more dimples on here as well. So we are going to, this is our old parts. So here, oh yeah, I'm very glad I got this. I could feel this is so much, this is stiff. This is really stiff compared to the new ones. A lot more supple. So that part goes down. So line those dimples up right over there. And then you see the screw holes will line up perfect. Okay. Check that this is nice and clean. It is. See, what I forgot was the gasket. Remember, I said the gasket on this side goes against the carburetor body. Okay, so again, lined up with the dimples there, so the screw holes are all lined up. Let's take our new diaphragm, lay that over the dimples. So again, we have to see which way this orientates. Now remember, that's that vent, the chainsaw's on the floor, that when push the carburetor back in onto the fuel lines, that vent was sticking out. So I know that that's going to be oriented that way, which makes sense because that pretty much lines up perfect. And again, the two little dimples that are there, there's little openings on there, so it grabs. See? So let's get these screws. Again, these were the little screws with the washers on them. Make sure the washers didn't fall out. This is one surgically clean carburetor. Tightening them up in a cross pattern. Just until I feel it squeeze. Now these are the adjustment valves I mentioned before. They have these limiter caps on them. I was considering removing them and popping them out, but I'm thinking after cleaning the carburetor and rebuilding it, I don't think I want to go past any factory settings. So I'm going to leave the limiter caps in. You can pop these out so you can get further than what the factory will allow, but if you went too high on the high-speed one, you may blow your engine. So I'm gonna hope everything works at the factory setting. So I'm gonna leave that intact. There's that little rubber piece. Put that back on. All right, carburetor's done. Let's keep that on a nice clean place and get the saw back up here. Okay, I did a little bit more cleaning up. Let's put this fuel line in now. Actually, I think I could get the impulse hose in easier first. So that end goes on the barb that's sticking down there. Get a little helping fluid for it. So remember, there was that little barb there. We're going to slide it right over. Get it started. And then kind of twist. And I'll push on with the needle nose. And then just make sure it's flush all the way to the back, which it is. All these rubber parts, just going to give it a little bit of spray with some silicone. Just keeps things nice and supple, so they don't dry rot as easy. Okay. So now I get the fuel line. And remember, the curved part goes in the tank, and we need to look for that straight line there to line up with this. Let's give it a little helping juice. And that one, so it's going to go that way. That's where the flat area is. Shove that in. Don't pierce it. Just help it a little bit. Good, and then when it's situated, give it a little pull, make sure it's on there good, and make sure your flat area is lined up, which it is. You got to pull these wires back. Remember, I had pulled everything so I could get it out of the way. So let's just little by little pull everything back till it gets tight to the body again. That comes back. Oh, let's get that blue rag out of there. Fuel line has to come under that area right in there. Can you see that? That rectangular opening. Fuel line pokes through there. Remember, the impulse hose is going to go into that hole. I have to poke the impulse hose through. So let's do that first. There it is. There it is. She poked through. So you see the impulse hose right there. It's poking through the hole, but this way I get light in there. There, you see those tabs? So it has to come a little bit further. So I need to put that through, and I'll show you how it looks from this point of view after I poke that through. There she goes. Popped right in. Oh yeah, slid right in. Let me show you how that looks. See it now? Nice and flush. Right there, the impulse hose. Now I gotta tuck that manifold through. See, remember, there was this bumper over here too. I gotta clear that bumper somehow. Maybe that'll help. To get the whole orange handle forward. Maybe I should try that first. See, I was hoping to tuck this in after the fact, but I think I need to push it forward more. in order to get that manifold to seat. Okay. Okay, that'll at least hold on now. Yeah, you see now everything's tighter. Everything's tighter to the body. And look, she's already poking through. See? So you gotta come from behind and find the area that you need to push through. She'll come through. Just takes a little bit of work and manipulation. There you go. See? See, that's back now. Let's get that. Okay, let's snake these wires the way everything was, and then it just gets pushed back behind that little clip. It snakes over the top down into those little clips. Before I do that though, I'm going to get it on the little spade splice there. Come on, stay out of my way so I could film this. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I need to get that wire onto that spade splice back there. So I'll try to do it with a needle nose pliers. Line it up. Actually, it looks like it's easier with my fingers. Okay, it's lined up. Take a little screwdriver and push it down onto that splice. And then this wire gets tucked into there, if I recall. So I'll show you what that looks like after that's connected. There. See? Wires on that spade splice. The fuel hose comes right in here and just sits up against there. So when you shove the carburetor on, it'll just grab hold, and then it'll line up with both the fuel line and the pulse hose. Now remember, we needed the little stiffener in there. Just make sure everything's clean. I don't think there was an orientation on this. There's just a little bit of a bevel to go around where the screws are. So just seat that in there. So that stiffens up the rubber. Okay. Then that said top. That slides over here. Right up against it. Let's look into my parts here. Am I missing anything else? There's this piece, but this goes on the outside of the carburetor. Okay, now we'll grab our carburetor. Make sure no junk out on it. Remember, fuel line, impulse line. Put a little helping juice on there. So line that right on the stud. There's no gaskets here. It's okay. Okay, so let me show you. Carburetor slides on. There's the fuel line. Actually, let me show you again how that fuel line just comes through there, tucks around, and goes into that little plastic groove. The impulse is just kind of flapping in the breeze. So when this goes on, That lines up. Fuel line lines up. And the impulse hose right there at the bottom lines up. There we go. See? Now it's situated all the way. Oh, I forgot this was supposed to go around over the top run. So off with the carburetor again, just a little bit. Let's get that wire around there. And then there was this piece, which is filthy. Let's clean that up. It's rubber, so we're gonna spray some silicone on it. So that's how you get to your carburetor adjustment screws. I think it's the low speed, high speed, and idle. Okay, so how did this go? I think this just tucked it back onto here. That's how that was. This came around here and slipped into the carburetor. Okay, there you go. So that lower hole goes over the idle adjustment, and then these two holes go in that groove where the high and low speed adjustment is. So push them on until they are pretty flush, and then line that groove up right in the plastic there. So that's, yeah, that's a nice design. It comes around the breathe. Oh, let's see that. The breather tube comes around so it could breathe right there. Not the breather tube, the vent tube, the tank vent. So this little grommet came out at some point. Let's tuck that back in. We needed this. It says top. Remember, the flanges went out like that. You always refer back to the video if you're not sure, like I had to do earlier. Get these nuts started. Socket. Let's get the choke lever back in. So this goes through this little hole here, right there. First you slip that through that hole. Push it in. Now here, this is kind of important. This is your kill switch. When you flip the lever up all the way, that's what will turn it off when it makes contact with that metal. So you got to make sure you lift that metal up, because it's if you snap this into place, look, I could snap that into place and the metal will be down. You won't be able to kill your engine. So make sure that you lift that up. Get it to sit on top of it while you work this back in, and then get it right above that tab and just push it in until it clicks. Okay. See, that works the way it's supposed to. Lever comes up, makes contact with the metal, and that'll kill your engine. All the way down for the choke. Get our throttle back in. Okay, remember that. So that's what's going to sit on the trigger. So it's going to go like that. We're going to find that hole, find the hole, give it a quarter turn until it locks in. So let me find where that is. It's right there. Line it up on that hole. There, I'm in. Give it a quarter turn. And you can tell you're in by pulling it, and you see, you know, you're caught. And squeeze the trigger so you can see that opening there. Push it right into that plastic clip until it clicks in. Click. Okay, that's working good. Let's get the air filter back on. That lines up with that there. Get your flathead screwdriver. Screw that back in. And now I need to get this back all situated. Remember, this was the one giving me a lot of trouble before. A little helping juice. Yeah, I think you just gotta pry, push, like that. Yeah, this is gonna be one pain in the ass, I could see that. Oh yeah. Lift it up with the screwdriver and then push down on the orange and try to get that lip over a little bit. Then you move over to the next area. You know, these bumpers are so damn tight because that's what prevents all that vibration. That's it. Once you get one end started, the rest kind of fall into place. You just help it up a little bit. See? Now that piece is flush right on the top. So let's put a bumper back before we forget. Oh, and look at that. Look at that. Some of the bumpers are different sizes, so we got to see which one works on that. Not that one. I think it's a small one in here. So this is going to take that the smaller diameter plug and just stick that on. Let's throw this wrap handle back on. Okay, so this goes that way. So I think I slipped it off the back. So let's come in that way. Okay, so let's line everything up here. All right, so this one lined up. So let's get that guy started. Come on, there it is. So there's one here. Just make sure the threads start. And that I'm not cross-threading anything. Yeah, you see that stiffens everything up. Good. Wow, looking like a chainsaw again. Let's take a look at the spark plug. I think I changed the spark plug not too long ago. It was definitely before that big tree I took down in that last video. Dry. Yeah, you know what? I have one. Let's put a new one in. Pop that cover back on. Let's see how she fires up before I throw the bar and chain on. So for this first start after cleaning out the carb, I'm going to throw some two-stroke True Fuel in, which is when I'm not going to use it for a while, which I like to store it with anyway. Ha. See what we almost forgot? Someone would have saw the video and said you forgot that. Forgot to put the filter back in. Okay, drop that back down. Put a little True Fuel in. These engines love True Fuel. That ethanol gas sits in there for a while when you mix your own, and that's what comes up these carburetors. It's It's a good idea when you're done using it, dump whatever leftover gas is in there. Let it run dry. Crank on it a couple times, really dry out that carburetor. And then put your true fuel in, turn it over again, and let that true fuel get into the carburetor. Then you could store it for a year or 2 years, whatever. It'll start right back up next time. It's when you let that ethanol gas sit in there for a long time is when they get all crapped out. Okay, let's see how she's running now. Got a new spark plug, a clean air filter, and a rebuilt carburetor. Let's see if she runs a little bit smoother now. Now it's completely cold again, so choke all the way down until it coughs one time. Once it coughs like that, I come up on the choke once. Do not crank it anymore on full choke. You will flood it. Let it warm up a little. Once it warms up a little bit more, I'll see how the trigger response is on it, but it sounds like it's idling good. Not dying out. Good trigger response. Okay, it's warmed up pretty good now. I'm going to see how good the trigger response is. See that? Get right on it. It goes. Well, there you have it. Clean the carburetor. It's like a brand new saw again. Ready to cut some more trees down. Stay tuned. That other tree next to the one that you just saw me cut down, that one's coming down next, which might be a little bit more tricky because she's leaning toward the street right into the power lines. So we're gonna have to work on that. Could be a disaster. But stay tuned, subscribe to the channel so you can get updates on when that video is coming. And I'll catch you in the next one.